Good morning, and welcome to another episode of A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier, chairman of Action for Life, and this is Father Michael Orsi. Good morning, Father.
Good morning, my friend.
You're looking fine.
Oh, aren't you nice? That's the makeup. Do you remember? You might remember. Remember in the old days when we went to a studio to do a taping? We did a lot of radio. You didn't have to worry about this. But they'd put makeup on you. I had to go in for makeup.
Pancake.
Yeah. And they take about a half hour to make my mug look presentable. So they put all the makeup on me, and even when you're on the set, if the lights were coming out at you and you were perspiring, lady would come out and put the makeup back on you. Oh. So anyway, folks, believe me, until I did television, I never wore makeup. I promise.
Well, back in the day, those Klieg lights were hot.
It was brutal. So anyway, I went home and I forgot that I had makeup on. So I washed my face and I had a white towel, and all of a sudden it's all red all over it. Oh, I'm bleeding. It was the lipstick. So that's just a story to get the show going, folks.
Well, that's, old-time TV, right?
Old-time TV, yeah.
My, how times have changed. I was, Father, I kind of think, what are we going to talk about this week? And something prompted me to talk about plastic in the ocean, which people are ignoring, but it's a huge problem. And it happens that the Pope has been talking about it, our beloved Pope. The statistics are alarming, but God placed humans in a position of responsibility over the creation, right? Genesis 2, verse 15 says, "The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it." And we recognize that all created things belong to God and we're accountable to him as stewards of the creation. So Pope Francis, in his encyclical called Laudato Si, which translates to "Praise be to you," urged all of us to be better stewards of the earth.
Yeah.
It's not only plastic, but it just occurred to me recently. I don't know if I saw something on TV, whatever it was. I mean, there is a ton of plastic in our oceans.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the title, first of all.
Okay.
Laudato Si. Praise to you, or I think if we just try to make it more clear, praise to you, praise to whom? Praise to the Lord. I think that would be my opinion, folks, I think that would be a better way to present this in English. Now, where would this praise the Lord title come from? Well, first of all, it comes from the Psalms, praise the Lord. But also, some of you might remember a great saint, St. Francis of Assisi, okay? And he was very much aware of God's presence in creation. And if you saw the movie Francis, it was a beautiful movie. It must have come out about, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Franco Zeffirelli did that. And there was a song there, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. Francis is praising God through his creation. Let's talk about environmentalism. That's like a big topic these days, especially with global warming.
Well, it's a broad topic, too.
Yeah, it's very broad. But okay, first of all, let's say this, that we should be concerned about creation for a very, very simple and a very, very good reason. You know what that is?
What?
We live in it. We live in it. Nobody look, you go down to the beach, go to the Gulf, all right? You go out into the Gulf and you don't want to see, dirty water with garbage in there.
Right.
I mean, when I lived up in New York, you go out to, sometimes you go out to the beaches, and there was even, medical waste coming in on the beaches, which was, syringes, and it was terrible.
Well, we'll get off the topic a little bit here, but in terms of global warming, everybody wants to address global warming in the next 5 years, right?
Yeah, well,
I mean, there's some insane goals that we're not going to hit.
You're not.
But let's look at For example, pollution. You know, ships used to dump their waste into the ocean.
Right. That's terrible.
That doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
So the same with littering. I mean, I remember when litter was all over the place.
Yeah.
And then finally, people were encouraged to stop littering, to pay attention to our planet. And there's still litter around, but it's a lot better than it was back in the day.
That's certainly, and you know, we don't have that problem in Naples, folks. We don't have that problem in Naples.
For the most part, we don't.
We don't. And I think it's because our people are conscious about where they live and they want to keep it clean. But also, I got to compliment, you know, Sheriff Rambosk and the Sheriff's Department. You know, we don't tolerate people just, you know, throwing garbage out on the street. So kudos to the Sheriff's Department in Collier County. Yeah, we live here. We want a nice environment. And I can remember when I was in graduate school in New York, before Mayor Giuliani came, the streets were a mess. They were literally a mess. And when he came, the streets began to be cleaned up, not just of crime, not just of drugs, but even the litter in the streets began to be cleaned up. There were garbage cans available to throw out your garbage, and people would be given summonses if they decided just to litter the street. And I can remember there were times before Mayor Giuliani where I saw people literally throw their garbage out a car window.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now in the city, virtually every corner has a trash receptacle. So there's no excuse for throwing trash on the ground. You can drop it in the basket.
Right. And so, you know, we have an obligation to keep our streets clean because it's good for us to live in a clean society where we can walk the street and not have to be stepping over garbage or dog droppings, you know. And what happened in New York, as I recall, as a high school student, we had Mayor Koch, and he had the pooper scooper law. You had to pick up after your dog. Before that, you could walk the streets and come home, you know, with your shoes filled with doggy doo. So yeah, that's it's important. We live in the environment. We want to keep the oceans clean. We want to keep the air clean. Look, we all have to breathe the air, you know. And you know, you go out there and you want to go. You know, it's like in Naples. You know, you go outside and you go down to the Gulf here. This air is beautiful. It's so clean. It's so beautiful. You don't want polluted air, and so yeah, there has to be EPA standards for what we can allow to be burned and how things can be disposed of. That's extremely, extremely important. So yeah, we do have an obligation to the environment in which we live, and it's on the micro level, little level. They're the things that, you know, we can do as citizens, little, you know, people like us that, you know, just don't throw, you know, your garbage out the car window. I'll tell you something else that really had me, you know, like spooked and mad. When I used to drive from New Jersey over to New York City, I would see all of these things hanging all over fences and trees. And I say, what the heck is that? You know what it was?
What?
Plastic bags. You know, like the plastic bags that we get, you know, when we go shopping.
Yep.
And people just throw them out, and then they land all over the trees, land all over the fences. It was terrible.
You know, I'm not a favor of heavy-handed government regulation, but I will say, in the state of New York, those plastic bags are outlawed.
Yeah, in New Jersey too.
You either bring your own bags, which most people do, or you pay a nickel a piece for the grocery bags if you don't have your own bags. And it makes a lot of difference.
It does. You know, I just wish people wouldn't, you know, throw them all over the place, because I like plastic bags personally. You know, we use them for garbage, you know, and, you know, it makes it easier to carry. And, you know, I'm told too, if you keep on bringing your own bag, you get a special bag, that your bag, whatever you put in it, has, after a while, collects germs in the plastic bag.
I bet it does.
In the canvas bag. So, I mean, if people just behave, you know, take the plastic bag that we have from Publix and you use it for maybe putting your garbage in there, and then bring it out to the dumpster area and separate the glass and the plastic and the rest of the garbage, put it in a plastic bag, tie the bag up and throw it in the dumpster. Why can't we do it? Why can't we do it? And I think that's, the basic thing that we can do on the micro level. Macro level, again, you need government to come in. I don't get me wrong, folks. I don't like EPA and all of their standards. I think sometimes these standards go too far, but you do need them to correct, the soot that is being belched out of factories. I was in China, BC. I was in China, I don't know how many years ago. And it looks like it's always overcast and foggy there.
Because of smog.
Smog.
Because
Yeah.
they burn so much coal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, I'm glad that we have regulations. However, when people talk about, smog and they talk about air quality and they talk about global warming, well, I think for the most part, I think we're doing a pretty good job. We're trying to address it. I think the European countries are trying to address it. But when you go to China or India, I don't think that they have a great emphasis or concern that we have.
Nope.
And those factories over there are going 24/7.
Right. And they're just spewing.
Oh, it's bad. It's bad. And when I was in China, this is before COVID, all those people, most of them were wearing masks.
Right.
Because of, now I don't know what good the masks do, with smog and fog and, dirty air, but they realized that it wasn't a healthy environment.
Yeah.
So, and that stuff, we have to take care of that stuff. And, international organizations have to put some pressure on these countries that are violating clean air standards. Okay, that's what I'm just thinking. I know it because, if we don't have clean air, what do we get? We have all kinds. We can get COPD.
Yeah, you get all kinds of lung diseases.
And
yeah, no doubt about it. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier. I want to tell you a story about my childhood, Father. Mm-hmm. The Androscoggin River, which flows through my hometown of Lewiston, Maine, in the 60s was one of the, I'm told, one of the 10 most polluted rivers in the country.
Wow.
There were textile factories and shoe factories, and they were pouring all of their waste, a lot of it chemical waste, into this river. It was brutal. Today, people don't swim in the river yet, but they do boat, and there are fish in this river. So over, 40 years, I suppose, they have managed to clean that river up completely. And there are some other rivers up there in New England, northern New England, that are swimmable. They're actually that clean. So when we get our people in our society to focus on the issue, it doesn't require government regulation. It requires the population to cooperate for the common good.
Yes.
Now, India, China, air quality, that's a huge problem that for some reason America is ignoring because the air is everywhere. Right?
Why are we ignoring it? Cheap goods. You have to have those cheap goods coming in from places where labor's cheap and the factories go 24/7.
Oh, boy.
There's a cost to everything, folks. You might think, you're getting a great bargain. Well, in the long run, we all pay the price.
No doubt about it.
There was a commercial. Some of you folks might remember it if you're like my age, 39, there was it was beautiful. There was an American Indian in a canoe.
With the teardrop.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
And he sees the river all dirty and full of junk, and a tear comes down his eye. And boy, that made a great impression.
It was powerful.
Yeah, it really was very powerful. But talking about cleaning up the rivers and stuff, I think that I read that the Seine in France during the Olympics, that they were able to once again swim in.
Just barely, I think.
Just barely, but the big change. And I'm told that fish are once again swimming up the Hudson River, into New York Harbor. So that's great progress there. Now, the other hot topic today, and I think that's part of this encyclical Laudato Si, is global warming, and I think that that's an issue that's really it's up for grabs, because you read different things from different scientists, and they come to different conclusions.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place, and many of the scientists will say, well, the Earth goes through heating cycles, and we're just going through a cycle. And some will go even so far as to say that the heating cycles are good because they are productive insofar as agriculture goes, and that the Earth really has a way of rehabilitating itself through these cycles. Mm-hmm. Others will say, we're not going to be here in 10 years because...
Al Gore said that, 15 or 20 years ago?
I know, so he just missed. And the little girl, Greta Thunberg, she's hysterical as a little child. Well, she's a young woman now, hysterical that the end of the world is coming, and addressing the United Nations, and we're in big trouble. We got to do something about it because the polar ice caps are melting, and we're going to be, at least Miami and New York City, the coastal areas, are going to be flooded, and they're going to be submerged. So I think that it becomes very extreme. It's also a way, and I'm concerned about this. I'm not saying that maybe there is something to it, but so far the predictions haven't come true. But the problem is, who are we giving control of our world over to oversee this problem of global warming? We've gone to a point where some scientists are saying we could put a shield between us and the sun. Folks, that's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. We need the sun. God knew what he was doing when he created the world. And believe me, somebody said, again, that no matter how much we try to control global warming and prevent the sun's rays from warming up the planet, all you need is one volcano, and that'll take care of all the work that we've tried to do, because volcano will spew forth heat and dust.
Well, yeah. and we're on a collision course here, because we are trying to limit global warming by limiting the use of fossil fuels, et cetera. Right. In the meantime, we're developing AI, which consumes an enormous amount of electric power that has to somehow be produced. And at this point, electric power is still being produced by fossil fuels of necessity. Right. Personally, I have no issue with nuclear power, and I wish we used more of it. Yeah. Because it is clean power. But we're not going to meet our global warming goals if we're going to meet our AI goals. Right. There is an absolute collision coming, and the electric infrastructure is very old and brittle, right. And a lot of it has to be upgraded. So that's a whole other.
I agree with you. I think nuclear power should be used. And the safeguards put in naturally. Remember, we got scared with 7 Mile Island. Right. The Russians had their episode. Chernobyl, right. Yeah. You can see how dangerous it could be. But if we develop it and we put in safeguards, I think it's a much better way for us to use the energy that we need. there are other attempts that people make, but there are also the downsides too, with the windmills out in the ocean. I mean, look at what has happened now. They tell us that birds are being killed on their flight migration paths, but also that the sound waves are confusing the fish and the dolphins. So we got to be very careful. Plus, to me, it's not aesthetically pleasing for me to look out at the windmills out on the Jersey Shore. I lived on the Jersey Shore. It's magnificent and beautiful, but I wouldn't want to see windmills out there. So that's my opinion, folks.
I mean, some places they're okay. I see them. There's a huge windmill farm on Interstate 80 when you're leaving Nebraska coming into Iowa. There has to be, 150, 200 of these things. They're kind of fun to look at. They're on farm ground, so they're not really affecting anyone, at least close by. But, looking at them from the shore, aesthetically, that doesn't work.
And, I was asking you a question. I don't know. How much energy do you get out of them anyway?
I don't know.
I mean,
I
how
really
many of these
don't
things
know.
I mean, it's the same thing with solar panels. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, harvest the energy from the sun. But, how many acres do you have to take up with solar panels?
I mean, I think that every house in Florida should have solar panels. The rub is that when you need the energy, the sun is gone. And so unless we can get the cost of storage batteries down to a reasonable level, I mean, what has to happen is if we had solar panels on every house in Florida where we have a lot of sunshine, and that energy could be stored in batteries, then houses could literally, be independent of the power grid.
Yeah, but how big are these batteries?
Well, that's, I think, size is an issue, but I think at this point, what's more of an issue is cost. Mm-hmm. It's not practical.
So, I mean, this is, a great thing to be conscious of the environment and how we can help to make a healthier environment. But of course, there are the caveats. What are we sacrificing, like in China and India, to do that, but also to become hysterical over global warming. I don't think the end of the world is coming very soon. I don't think so. I remember when I was a boy looking at Time magazine, and they said we were going to have a global freeze. And they had pictures on the front cover of Time magazine of New York frozen. But it never happened. So I think there's a lot of politics involved in all of this. I think there are a lot of scare tactics involved in all of this. I wouldn't want to see our freedoms given over to an international agency to control something which I think is pretty much uncontrollable, the sun.
I'm with you, Father.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. But for the moment, I'd like to talk to you about the expense of airing this program. Many people don't realize how expensive it is to produce this program and to get it on the air. Would you care to guess? It's about $3,000 per week. We think that's a reasonable expenditure, but obviously it's an expensive one. So we need to ask for your help. If you'll go to actionforlife.org and click on the donate button, it would be greatly appreciated. Now, you can donate once or you can donate each month, and we certainly have viewers who do both. We appreciate that. Please take time now to visit actionforlife.org and click on the donate button. Thank you so much for your support, and may God bless you always. Glenn Beck is coming to Naples on October 30th. This is your once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get up close and personal with renowned author, broadcaster, and political commentator Glenn Beck. Enjoy elegance, education, and enlightenment as Glenn Beck and Father Michael Orsi engage in a highly anticipated dialogue on stage at the beautiful Naples Grand Beach Resort. Get tickets today with an early bird discount at actionforlife.org/events.
Hey gang, I know a lot of you sometimes can't watch all of our episodes of Action for Life. However, we have a solution for that. All you have to do is go to YouTube and search for Action for Life Florida. And you can catch up on all the shows, and guess what? Extra added bonus, you get to hear my weekly homily. So, YouTube and you make a fine couple.
Welcome back to A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier. Wrapping it up, Father, it seems to me that the American people are in agreement that we're concerned with global warming and we'd like to do something about it. But as you pointed out, I think those things happen at a very granular level. The idea that, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, but the idea that
You get in trouble? No, I'm the one that gets in trouble, not you.
The idea that government should throw all this money at, for example, electric cars. You know, before the money was there, Tesla was doing just fine and people were slowly adopting electric cars. I don't think we're ever going to see an all-electric fleet of vehicles.
I don't think so either.
But if everybody does, I guess my point is, and this is the point of our Pope, if everybody does their share, we can solve these problems. They're not insurmountable.
No, they're not. No, they're not. I think the electric cars, Elon Musk's Tesla is beautiful. I wouldn't want to have one because unless I was just going to be driving around town.
Right.
I don't think I feel very comfortable driving far away, and they're very expensive. Also, other companies that tried to develop the electric car, Ford, they've cut back. They've lost a lot of money on
I just read Ford lost last year $40,000 on every electric car they sold.
Yeah, so they're cutting back on production. Let me, close the show just by saying this. Creation is a gift from God, and no doubt about that. It's a gift that, we have to take care of. Like any gift, if you give me a gift and then I just throw it on the side and say, well, I'm disrespecting you. I really am committing a sin.
Yep.
If I disrespect creation, I'm committing a sin against creation. We want everybody to enjoy all the good things that God has given us and to enjoy the earth, the beautiful earth that God has given us. So yeah, we have an obligation to take care of the earth. We have an obligation to take care of the beautiful, beautiful world that God has given us. And when we don't, we're disrespecting the Creator. We're disrespecting the Creator, and that becomes a sin. That becomes a sin. So yeah, should we be sensitive to the world around us? Sure, we should be sensitive to the world around us. I don't think we should politicize it, though, and I think that's happened a lot lately. And just our last conversation about the electric cars. Well, you have to be able to afford them too. A lot of people can't afford folks. I can't afford an electric car. If you want to give me a Tesla, I will drive the Tesla. I will hook it up to my condo, and I'll drive around town with it. But other than that, I'm not going to drive it to New Jersey. I'm afraid.
Well said, Father. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll be back again next week for another edition of A Conversation with Father Orsi. Until then, I'm BC Cloutier. Have a great week, and God bless.